You're listening to Hockey Talk on the Rock
All right, stop.
with Laura and Keith.
It's interesting.
So let's back up a second.
He played absolutely out of his mind.
It made no sense to me.
And now, here are your hosts.
All right, kicking it off, Hockey Talk on the Rock. We're on a sort of a milestone episode with our quarter century, I believe, right? Number 25.
25. Woohoo!
It's flown by. Coming in again on a little bit of a late episode. We missed our Friday appointment on the evening. That's my bad. So we're doing a little Sunday morning, but on Easter Monday morning episode.
Yeah, a little holiday episode, I guess, but
Holiday
I mean-
episode. So yeah, it is what, Monday, April the 5th. It's 9:30 in the morning. I'm still enjoying a morning coffee. Laura's all fired up. She's got her list of things to talk about, and it's been a busy 10 days in the hockey world for a plethora of reasons. So
yeah.
we'll tackle the big one.
Yeah, I think it makes sense to start with the kind of big, sad story. I don't know how else to talk about it, but there's basically the entire Canucks team now is in COVID protocol, along with 3 of their coaches, and it's not looking good. All the reports coming out of the team is that a number of the players are very ill, and some of them have even required to have like IVs from the team doctors. So, I mean, at this point in time, like, the most important thing, right, is their health. And you are talking about young professional athletes who should be in like the best shape kind of their life, right? And the scary thing, I guess, for me as a Canucks fan is you don't know like the long-term effects that this is going to have on the team. I know that the rumor from New York was that like Zibanejad, the reason why he started so slow was because he was still dealing with like, COVID-related issues after he got it at the beginning of the year, and it's taken him like 2 months to kind of come back to form. And I mean, I guess like I don't even know how to really connect it back to hockey because like as I said, I feel like it's a bigger issue about their health right now above everything else. But because the Canucks played so poorly at the beginning of the year, on one hand, it doesn't really matter like how they come back to play because they're probably not going to be in it anyway. Although if Montreal and Calgary keep losing, I mean, there is an opportunity. But as I said, like you don't know who's going to be on the team. They've called up a number of AHL players, or they're going to just in case. They've paused the team, right? The NHL paused the team until this Thursday. There's 0% chance they're playing this Thursday. I don't know how long off they're gonna have. Again, it's just a really sad situation. The 2 people that I think about the most right now is Travis Hamonic, because he opted out of the return to play because of his daughter, and everyone was like, oh, he's such a pussy, blah, 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 blah. And now he has it. So I really hope that he doesn't spread it to his daughter because that's just a really sad story there. And then also Bo Horvat, who just had a kid in the summer, you know, you don't want to see the little guy getting it. So yeah, it's just really unfortunate, and I'm thinking about them a lot.
Yeah, hopefully everybody heals up. Like you say, it affects everybody differently, and you hear some scary stories. And the one I read that was kind of eye-opening, I guess, because you mentioned like they're in the best, like they're in pretty prime peak health condition, physically.
Yeah.
It ripped through Buffalo's locker room earlier in the year, and I
Yeah.
remember reading like Ristolainen took a long time to come back, and even when he came back, it took him a while to adjust. And he said that it felt like sometimes when he was like getting active, that like his heart would start working hard, and it would feel like his heart was cracking inside his chest.
Yeah.
And it's just like they know it does a little bit of damage to the walls, the heart and stuff too, and it's a scary time. And the fact they think it's that variance and that's why it ripped through the team so quickly.
Yeah.
I think it's just a good reminder to everybody that like just because it's spring and getting nice out and everything, it's not really the time to let up.
Yeah, and also like Vancouver area is meant to be like the worst for that Brazil variant outside of like South America right now.
Right.
So again, as you say, it is a good reminder like it's out there and that's one of those ones that has been shown to spread really easy. And I mean, in a sad way, the Canucks are a really good example of that, right? Like it's a tight group and it just ripped through that group, in 2 days or whatever.
Yeah.
And the thing that I will say that I find a bit weird about the NHL's like COVID protocol is the fact that they continued to practice like after Gaudette got pulled off the ice
Yeah, that
because
was weird.
like if you have a positive test and you're all on the ice and you're not wearing masks, like as soon as one person tests positive, I would just shut it down and say, okay, we're not practicing until we get the rest, like the next set of tests back.
Yeah, and separate everybody right there.
Yeah. So I don't get that because they continued practicing on Tuesday and then they had a morning skate or whatever on Wednesday. So to me, that's the part that I hope maybe they change a bit. And the other thing that I'll just say on the end of this is I know now the NHL is actually debating or thinking about the possibility of bringing back like 4 bubbles for the playoffs. Um, because of what's happened in Vancouver. I don't know the likelihood of that happening, right? I think they'll probably do a wait and see approach, but it is kind of out there right now if even just for the first round or something they bring everyone back in because they knew they were going to have outbreaks and they've had outbreaks all year long. It's just now it's in the North Division whereas before it was just in the States, right? But because it's that variant, they are taking it more seriously as a league.
Mm-hmm. And I mean, I read, like you probably saw, there was 8 points regarding this breakout and how they're gonna deal with it. And so it sounds like they're gonna end up using their extra week at the end of the year that they set aside for makeup games. They already plan to use that full week for North Division games.
Yeah.
And it
Yeah,
was weird though because it was like contradictory a little bit because it was like saying the American teams might start their playoffs while the Canadian teams are doing their makeup games, but like a bunch of American teams have makeup games too,
yeah.
don't they?
They do, but because those outbreaks happened earlier in the year, I think they were more able to interdisperse them like into the season.
Oh, I see.
So the problem with the Canucks, right? Like there's 2 problems. The first is that like this is the biggest outbreak. I know Dallas had the really big one at the beginning of the year, but because it was right at the beginning, again, they could kind of work those games in. But Dallas still has games in hand because of that and because of the whole storm situation in Texas. But like, if you have four, like, under 10 players that say you test positive, you can bring that team back and you can be like, okay, use your taxi squad, call up some guys, whatever. The Canucks right now, like, I don't know how long they're going to need to have off.
Right,
Like, it's going to be at least 2 weeks. And then I don't know who they're going to have as players.
right.
So, yeah, it's just that's the part of it that's really bad for the league, but I agree with you, it's a bit like contradictory with the whole makeup games, but I think the US has been able to make them up better just because of the timing of their outbreaks.
Right.
But yeah, like it's really shitty news. There's nothing else to say about it, and I want to watch the Canucks play, but it doesn't matter as like their health is the first thing right now, right? So um but that being said, I mean, I guess we can move on. I don't know how else to kind of move on from that topic.
Yeah, I mean, I can say I'll stick with North Division news
Yeah.
and explain besides my going around the room and wearing jerseys in order, it kind of worked out well to
Yeah.
wear the Maple Leaf ones today because they've extended their lead in the North Division. And I just want to quickly mention a couple little notables. I just was looking at the standings a little bit more often recently just to see how things are going with all the divisions. But
Yeah.
um, kind of wanted to just quickly note a couple of things on all of them. And I think the North one is um, it's it's predictable and unpredictable in a way, right? Like I think most people thought Toronto were going to be there,
Yeah.
but I don't know how many people felt Montreal and Winnipeg, especially Winnipeg, would be doing as well as they're doing.
Yeah.
And I think the biggest story out of the North Division, besides COVID-related news, when we're sticking to hockey, is um, the season that the Calgary Flames are having.
Yeah, the Flames. I was gonna ask you a question about the Flames, and it's gonna relate to standings in other areas. But who's more disappointing this year, Calgary or St. Louis?
I think I'd have to go with Calgary. Because
Yeah,
St. Louis has played a lot of hockey, even with the weird schedule the last year,
yeah.
and they kind of seem tired in the bubble. Whereas like Calgary is like at least management believes they're on the up and up, and they went out and
They
by their moves in the offseason, you could tell like they were looking to take a massive step forward this year.
Yeah,
And
there's something fundamentally broken in that locker room, and I think people have talked about it for a while. And I was a bit on the fence before, but now I think it's really clear.
it's
I
very yeah.
I don't know, like yeah, like they got to trade Gaudreau. I guess that's the first thing, right? But there's people out there who think they should trade like Matt Kachuk, and if it's like some sort of rift between him and the other like kind of core players on that team, yeah, I don't know. It's a shitty situation for Calgary, because they should be better on paper. They really should.
They
I'll go
should.
back to St. Louis in a bit. We can focus on Calgary now, but like, yeah, I didn't expect them. I mean, I picked them to end up first. I will say, I think when I did my predictions, I over emphasized what goaltending would mean. Like, I kind of looked at who had the best duos of goaltenders, and I was like, oh, it's gonna play a big role. And I don't think it has as much as I thought it would.
No, it's been unpredictable.
Yeah. So, like, that's the thing. And like that coaching change, I think we both said that we thought like initially they'd do better and then they'd probably end up, doing, kind of average, but they've looked basically the same. Like
Well,
they're
they did win 3 in a row with him right
yeah,
off the bat,
yeah,
but then it's been nothing but losses since then.
yeah, and they look flat. Like they don't look like they have anything. And then like Daryl Sutter, I don't know if you catched his quote about Gaudreau.
Going into his 500th game,
Yeah,
yeah, that was good.
it was
Yeah.
pretty funny, but there's something up there. I don't know.
So if I were the GM, I think I'd be looking to trade it and turn it over, starting with the old core. Like I don't think you move Matthew Tkachuk.
Yeah,
He's still young and immature, and he'll figure out how to be a better person and teammate at some point in his life. But I think you try to rebuild that forward core surrounding him, Lindholm, and then guys like Dubé and Mangiapane.
Mangiapane's a really good player. I know I've said it before. I like his game a lot.
Yeah, so those are the four I'd be looking to build around, and I'd be getting rid of Monahan, Gaudreau, and
Bennett.
Bennett. Yeah, get rid of those three because I'm thinking they're the culture that's probably the problem.
Yeah,
And I mean, for having what seems to be a deep forward core, like they have the least amount of goals scored in the North Division. I mean, they're tied with Vancouver, but
yeah,
they're one behind Ottawa. But like when you look at a roster with names like those four guys,
yeah,
can you keep plus the Gaudreau, Monahan, Bennett,
yeah.
uh,
You'd
you're
expect them to be able to score some points.
totally, totally. You think
Like,
they'd happen in the 120s with the top teams, not at the bottom.
yeah, and again, their defense is solid. Like they've got a pretty good like top 4D, and even just as a whole unit, the six of them are pretty good. And then goaltending wise, like Markstrom hasn't been the same that he was in Vancouver for them, but they should have like everything on that team should be better. I think just as a whole, they underachieve. Um, so yeah, it's a weird situation for sure in Calgary, and will be one to watch. I think at the trade deadline, I wouldn't be surprised if maybe like they move on from someone like Backlund or something at the deadline, because I think there'll be teams that would want someone like him.
Right.
Um, and then in the off season, they'll try and pull off those bigger moves, but it's going to be hard again with the flat cap when you start dealing that kind of money. But
I agree, but in a sense, I feel like there's other teams that are going to look at Johnny Hockey and Monahan's deals at their 6 mil or whatever they are, and look at that as like pretty good value.
I wonder about Monahan, like on a team like Pittsburgh or something. because he seems to be the type of player, like, he doesn't generate offense by himself, but if you put him on a line with someone like a Sidney Crosby, who's like wants to carry the puck and wants to create those plays, then if he can just kind of go to the front of the net or get those kind of tap in goals, kind of play that, I guess, north-south game, he'll be effective. And so I kind of, that's for some weird reason I think about that, but they're pretty good on their forward core right now. But like Monahan, I think if he's proven anything, it's like, yeah, he can't be relied on solely to produce offense. He needs to have someone to drive the line for him.
Yeah, and I think you probably do better in either a smaller market, or B, as like a bona fide second line guy. Maybe he's not meant to be your top line dude.
Yeah. Yeah, he had
Um,
a couple good years there, but again, I think it was probably it overvalued what he was or whatever.
yeah.
But
So I'll follow your trail of breadcrumbs over to the Honda West division. You want to
that
speak?
to me, the West, sorry, is the most fascinating division to watch. So the week that the Canucks have had off or whatever, I've basically only been watching games in this division. And I will say, kind of before we get into the actual team games, Kaprizov, I think, is the most exciting player to watch in the NHL right now.
Really?
And
Eh?
I find myself watching more and more like parts of Minnesota games, and he's so noticeable. And that power play with him and then Fiala on the point just looks so deadly. And I talked about this earlier in the season, but I think for Minnesota, literally, if they change their jerseys permanently to be those Minnesota North Stars colors, and now you have like exciting young players on your team, it can just revolutionize or like change that whole like feeling around that team that was just boring for like 20 years
Oh yeah.
and actually be exciting. But they're pretty fun to watch, and I find myself laughing about it because I don't think I ever thought I would like voluntarily put on like a Minnesota like St. Louis game or something. And
Right.
now I'm like, okay, this is pretty cool.
Yeah, you know what? I think I've said it before, and I'll say it again. Those yellow Minnesota jerseys, the North Star colors,
Yeah.
like if anything is going to come out of the retro reverse as a permanent, that might, because it's unbelievable how many like general friends or fans or radio shows
Yeah.
or people on broadcast that are just like I haven't heard a single bad thing other than like the subway thing. So
Yeah.
that's sort of just like internet people being funny than hockey fans hating it.
Yeah. No, I think that on the ice, the whole uniform looks so good. Like when I first saw the jersey again, initially I really liked it, and then I saw that stupid subway thing, and then it got in my head. But
Mhm.
now when I look at it with the whole uniform, I'm just like, those are so sick. Like those colors together look awesome. And yeah, I'm kind of kicking myself for not getting one of those, but we'll see.
Well, now you have time to get a Kaprizov because you probably
I
weren't
know.
before.
I'm gonna bandwagon onto the Kaprizov. No, I think for me, he's the most excited I've been about watching a player that's not on the Canucks since Ovechkin. Like when Ovechkin broke into the league, and I don't think he's obviously not OV level. I'd kind of put him on Panarin's level, like when he broke in. They're
Right.
kind of similar, right? But yeah, he's just like totally changed that team around, and they're in third right now in that division, but they could realistically probably end up in second, which is crazy. I
They,
know
they could take the division. They're only six back of Colorado with a
Colorado,
game.
but Colorado's now like turned it on to a different level.
That's
I
true.
think they haven't lost in like 14 or 16 games or something in regulation. And then the team, yeah, like I guess like for me, St. Louis, the reason why I find them so disappointing is because of the division that they play in. Because, okay, you've got those three teams, the Minnesotas, the Colorados, and Vegas, who are very good. But the rest of that division is not that great. Arizona's playing well. San Jose started playing better. And then like LA and Anaheim, they're up and down kind of thing. But right now, like Arizona's in fourth, which is crazy. And then San Jose and St. Louis have the same amount of points.
So you say Arizona being in fourth is crazy, but I'm pretty sure you picked them to finish fourth.
No, I picked San Jose.
Did you?
Yeah.
Oh, I thought you picked Arizona fourth, and I put
Well,
Minnesota fourth.
yeah, your pick's looking better than mine, although you never know. San Jose could sneak in.
Well, I don't know. I feel like even though they're on a good run, and now like you're reading that they might try to add at the deadline, which would be so ridiculous.
Yeah.
But I feel like if we look back to like 3 episodes ago,
Yeah.
LA was kind of on a similar run.
Yeah.
I feel like it's, and now they've come back down to 3-7-0 and
Validate.
10. So I think San Jose will probably see the same thing too.
Yeah, I still think St. Louis makes it over Arizona, but I just that division is I think right now the most interesting one to watch.
I think here's my hot take: Arizona will take that last playoff spot, and they'll fire Berube. I think he's lost the room.
Yeah. Yeah,
We'll see.
we'll see. I guess kind of jumping from coaching talk to coaching talk because there's two other markets that I think that are really interesting to watch right now. So the first one is your boys with the Flyers,
Oh, yeah.
and like this week, I think it was this week. It was either this week or last week. Alan Vigneault came out with a quote about Carter Hart like needing to work harder,
Yep.
and then they benched him or they didn't even dress him for 2 games, which sucks for me, but that's okay. Uh, and then like just everything that Vigneault says right now. I know you said you don't think he's going to be fired in the offseason. I kind of think he's lost it. I know he's only been there for 2 years, but again, Philly's such a weird team because it's like every second year they miss the playoffs and then the next year they're good, and it really felt like this year they were going to break that trend, and they've kind of just come out the same way, or they came out pretty good and then they've fallen flat. And
Which
I
is opposite to normal years. Normally they come out of the gates stumbling, and then they spend all year clawing their way back into it. But
yeah,
I don't think I'm going to stand behind AB again. I
yeah,
don't think he's going to lose it. Looking at the goals against for the team,
yeah,
only Ottawa has let in more goals this entire year than Philadelphia.
right, that's not a good one.
No, so I don't think it's been on Elliott and or Hart because they've had their games, but like I think I'm just gonna harp back on, they need that veteran defensive defenseman that can also ship it. Like
Yeah,
can't stress how much of a role Niskanen played and
yeah,
how much that abrupt retirement really threw them
change
off.
the team.
It did.
Yeah, I was listening actually yesterday to 31 Thoughts, and that's what Elliot Friedman was talking about, exactly that with Philly, that they need that D-man and that Niskanen played a bigger role than most people expected him to or
Oh
thought.
yeah.
And then like they're kind of debating as a team now if it would be worth it to go out and get a D-man like him. I don't know who it would be. Maybe the Savard in Columbus, and then at the expansion draft, like protect 4D and 4 forwards instead of doing the 7 and 3. So according to him, that's their like debate right now.
Yeah, it's a tough one. No, it sucks. It's a tough one. And I mean like, yeah, what do you expect when, you're trying to fill a hole of a guy who was doing 25 minutes a night playing really solid defensive hockey with like a Shane Gostisbehere or
Yeah,
Eric Gustafson, who are like
yeah,
purely offensive dudes, right?
for sure. Yeah, it's interesting.
It is. So I feel like they're going to make it work and sneak back in, but I mean, it's not going to be easy. They got 3 games against Boston this week, and that'll be the
That's
big,
the season.
yeah, exactly.
Yeah, the other team that is predictable, I think, to talk about in terms of coaching is Columbus. And Tortorella, his contract expires this summer. I don't think he's coming back. That team has been like a disappointment all year, and they've kind of hung around the conversation for a playoff spot, but now they've totally fallen out of it. Um, and again, with the trade from Winnipeg, like for Line and Roslovic, like it's just exactly what you would expect, I guess. And then like Roslovic started out playing pretty well for Columbus, and now they're like healthy scratching him and shit, and it just makes zero sense to me. And then like I think again the line A stuff speaks for itself. I don't know how much of it should be like maybe just let line A be line A, let him be the offensive guy and not worry about defense because some guys that are that skilled deserve that, or if he just isn't going to be that good of a player. Like, I don't know which way that goes, because it's almost the same story that we had in Winnipeg, right? Except for last year when I thought Laine was actually pretty good in terms of his all-around game, almost like a Brock Besser. So, yeah, I think
I think if we look back now at our trade winners and participation ribbons, I think we'd both be flip flopping, because I think we both gave the win to Columbus, saying at the time
yeah,
they were getting the better player in the deal. But it seems like Dubois has established himself pretty quickly in Winnipeg as a
yeah,
even game breaker in some games. And Laine, like, he had a good game or two at the beginning.
yeah. Yeah, no, I think for sure right now Winnipeg is the winner of that deal. Long term is still yet to be decided, but seems like in the short term Winnipeg did very well. And I mean, you praised Shovel Day off for that at the midpoint. You said he thought he did really well, and I agree. I think when you have those players that demand to be traded, like if you wait and you get what's best, like I don't think anyone expected him to be able to get, a Dubois type player for Laine. So
No, and I mean, I don't know how much Winnipeg you've watched recently besides Canucks, but like having him has given them the ability to be so flexible with their top nine and move
yeah,
things around. That, like, I'm pretty sure they've been playing Paul Stastny on the wing,
yeah,
um, which makes them,
a
a pretty
lot
scary
more.
team, especially come playoff time, right?
Yeah, and I'll get to that at the end of this because I just wanted to talk really briefly about that Central Division because
Yeah, me too. I wish I wore my Florida one that I wore last time today, because they're back on top.
they're back on top. The other crazy thing that's happened is that Nashville has crawled their way back into a playoff spot. And at this point, I would be really surprised if they don't make it. Um, which has obviously changed kind of like the whole landscape of that trade deadline because it looked like Nashville was going to sell, and now I'm assuming they're going to keep all their guys. So that will change things for the buyers out there. There's all the rumors like with Granlund going to Toronto and stuff like that. I can't see that happening now. Um, and then like Chicago's come back down to earth.
I think that was probably the most predictable thing at
Yeah.
the halfway points, is we could have probably called Chicago.
Yeah.
The Nashville thing is pretty impressive, and I wonder, do you think it's one of those things that, like, all of a sudden so many of their names were all on the trip, like in the rumor mill, and in this day and age, the players are way more aware of it than ever.
Yeah.
The type of thing that, maybe it was a players only meeting. They're like, you know what,
We got to
we can do
turn
this.
this around.
Yeah,
Yeah.
let's do this.
And yeah, I think the fascinating thing for me in terms of like playoff matchups, because like if Tampa ends up first and they get Nashville, like I think that's kind of predictable. But if that first round, the other first round is between Carolina and Florida, that will be a really good like matchup.
Didn't they do that in the play-in round last year?
I don't think it was it Carolina and Florida.
I'm pretty sure it was.
Now I'm like totally losing it. But
Oh, no. They played in the first round of the playoffs, because
okay,
Carolina wiped out the Rangers in the play-in.
right, okay.
And then, yeah, Florida beat whoever, and they lost to Carolina in the first round in the real
Right.
play.
Yeah, okay, that makes sense. Yeah, I think right now though that matchup's a lot more interesting just because of how Florida's being playing. And I also really like Carolina's build as a team, and now it looks like they have three goalies who can play because Mrazek's back, they have Reimer, and they have that Nedeljkovic kid.
Reimer's hurt though, right?
No, Reimer's okay right now.
Is he?
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
So there's all sorts of rumors that they're gonna deal one of those goalies, which makes things interesting too. Um, but what was I gonna say? Florida, yeah, the Florida thing is crazy to me because they haven't won a round right since '96,
Yeah.
and like I feel like one of Toronto or Florida is gonna win a round this year, but not both of them. I almost feel like it's a similar storyline, and why I was like I'll come back to Winnipeg later is because I think if Toronto should win that division, but if for some reason they don't and they end up playing Winnipeg in the first round, I really think Winnipeg beats Toronto.
It could happen.
Yeah.
I think the whole playoffs would have been a lot different in the summer if Shifley didn't get taken out by Tkachuk in that play-in round.
Yep, I agree. But I just like Winnipeg's build as a playoff team because they play that heavy style and they have the goaltending. I like them more than I like Toronto, I guess, like head to head.
Mm-hmm.
But I think if Toronto plays Montreal, it's like Toronto will win that, no problem.
Yeah. Okay.
But anyway, and then Edmonton is kind of a wild card, but I don't know. I don't know about Edmonton. Anyway. But that division is crazy. The Central is turning out to be quite an interesting one.
Central?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I
Yes.
do have 3 kind of small trades that happened this week.
Okay.
So the first one is Brendan Lemieux from New York to LA for a 4th, and they did this move right so they could make space for that Kaprizov kid who was coming over from Russia. So
He came over, so they had to get rid of the contract?
Yeah, they basically just needed to make a roster spot, so they gave up Lemieux. And I think they did pretty good. Like, I think they got a 4th for him, so that's pretty good. I don't really know what LA is doing, and we've talked about this a lot. They have a lot of young forwards, and I mean, Brendan Lemieux, like, he's not the same. Like, he's not a skilled forward, so he's a bit different, but kind of a random move for LA.
When I saw it, I felt like it was an expansion draft move for the Rangers. I didn't realize it was the Kaprizov thing.
Yeah.
And it could be a bit
Yeah,
both.
it could be both, actually.
And maybe it's one of those things that LA thought he would be enticing somebody for Seattle to take. They didn't really care about losing.
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't know. Looking at it at first, I gave LA the win.
Yeah.
Because they paid so little for an established middle 6 or bottom 6 guy.
Yeah.
And he was a former first rounder at one point in his life.
Yeah.
So yeah, first spin ribbon to the Rangers. It seems like kind of weird that they're like, here have Elias Anderson for a 2nd. Here have Brendan Lemieux for a 4th. Now it's like, okay.
Yeah, LA's just taking all the ex-Rangers.
Yeah.
Yeah, the second one was Michael Amadio from LA to Ottawa for Christopher Wolanin or whatever, the demon.
Yeah.
And I'll give that win to Ottawa because I think Michael Amadio, he has upside. Like, there's some potential there. He wasn't playing well this year in LA, but he has played well in the past, and maybe he just needs a change of scenery. So I think he's got a higher upside than Wolanin.
Okay, I didn't know about this trade, so with no looking into it, I'm going to give the win to LA because Wolanin is a NHL player, and I don't know the other guy.
Okay, there you go. Yeah. The last one, which you probably also might have not heard about, was Tampa trading Volkov to Anaheim for a prospect, which is this Antoine Morand.
Oh yeah, I did hear about that one.
Okay, and a 7th. And I gave the win here to Anaheim because I think they get the NHL player, and he scored a goal in their first game. And I think that those ex-Tampa players usually do better when they're out of Tampa, when they get...
Yes, Carter Verhaeghe, for example.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, no, I saw that trade, and I gave the win to Anaheim as well because like Tampa was just selling cap space basically.
Yeah.
And Volkov never seemed to get a shot, and now he'll get one. And like you said, he got a goal.
Yeah.
Good. So.
And Tampa's got to figure it out, like with Kucherov coming back, and everyone's up in arms about that one because it looks like he's going to be ready before playoffs, and then they'll probably just make him wait so they don't have to dump cap. But they will have to dump cap in the off season, so it will be interesting to see what they do, and I do think it will probably end up being some sort of expansion draft trade thing where they ask, like,
they'll be dishing out a pick to get rid of a Tyler Nelson contract or something, because they're gonna have to. They kind of got lucky this year.
They got lucky for a year, and we'll see if maybe they can repeat because they got lucky, and what sort of shape Kucherov is in when the playoffs start will be really interesting to see. Because he'll be rested, he'll be ready, but maybe he won't be at game speed. I don't know. But yeah.
Well, what's the next lunch topic?
So this is my last topic, and it kind of is more relevant now because they did win. But the Sabres, they tied that record longest losing streak set by the Penguins right before they got Sidney Crosby. And there's lots of talk over if this is actually like the worst NHL team ever, which is pretty sad when you start talking about it in that way. And again, we've talked about Buffalo lots. I think they're the team of the year to talk about because it's been so bad. And right now, like for the last month and a half or whatever, they haven't had Jack Eichel, which doesn't help. I think when you take him out of their lineup, you start realizing they've got some holes. And I still find it fascinating, I guess, because if I was a coach and you told me, hey, I want you to come coach this team that has the young core of like Jack Eichel, Rasmus Dahlin, Dylan Cousins, Victor Olofsson, like I'd be interested. Like that seems like a pretty good group of players. It's not like a bunch of guys with no skill, but going back to Ryan O'Reilly when he played in Buffalo, it's like this kind of life-sucking situation that just takes all the joy out of what you do. And then as soon as these players leave, they're so much happier. I just really wonder what goes on in that locker room, and it's gone on for so long now. Like again, going back to that O'Reilly trade, I'm trying to think of his name now, the player that went from St. Louis and he went to Buffalo for like 2 months and then retired from hockey because he just couldn't handle it.
Sabotka, wasn't it?
Yeah, was it Sabotka? Anyway, like there's so many stories like that, and yeah, it's
So here's my question.
yeah.
When's the last time Buffalo had a bona fide number one starting goaltender?
Ryan Miller,
Ryan Miller. How long ago was that?
like 2010 or something.
Right. So it's been over a decade,
Yeah.
right? So if we went back to when you and I were doing our predictions to start the year,
Yeah.
and I know for sure one of us put New Jersey last, one of us put Buffalo last.
Yeah.
But we were doing that again, and we told ourselves from the future, hey, Jack Eichel's gonna be hurt most of the year.
Yeah.
Right? Because we both instantly like Buffalo last, right?
Yeah.
I'm pretty positive about that.
Yeah.
And I can't remember, was it you or me who put them last? We definitely harped on the fact that they don't have a goalie, and
Yeah.
I don't know. You can dress up Allmark and Hutton as much as you want, but like going into a year with those two, like I don't like.
Well, the thing is
How,
too, like
how,
they did have Robin Leonard, right? And I know he wasn't great when he was in Buffalo, but like he was pretty good as soon as he left. It's the same kind of thing that's like something goes on when these players go there that they like
yeah, I mean, I think the roster was so much different when he was there that you can point
sure.
to the defense at that point.
Yeah.
But yeah, no, I mean, it would be difficult coming to the rink every year for like however many years, 3, 4 years now. Let's say if you're Jack Eichel or Rasmus Dahlin, and being like, oh man,
Yeah.
we're gonna get less than 9 out of 10 saves from our goalie every night.
Yeah.
So it's got to be depressing, and I think they need to start from there and work their way out. Like I don't know, you can see what a difference it makes to a team with like Vancouver and a Demko, right?
Yeah.
Imagine Vancouver was with an Anders Nielsen and someone else right now, and like, how depressing would that be? Like, how many goals would they have let in by now?
It would have been a rough season. I mean, we've kind of seen it like with Holtby, right? And I don't want to harp too much on him, but he's been that guy where he hasn't made like at least in every game there's one goal that he should have had that he doesn't have, right?
Yeah.
And when you're a goalie and you have that kind of record, it's not good. But I'm glad you brought up Demko because that was the last thing I wanted to talk about. And I actually didn't write it down. So Demko did sign a new deal with Vancouver, which is the happy Canucks news of the week.
Mm-hmm.
And it's a good one. I think it's a good one for both sides. So 5 million for 5 years, and like there are some people that say for goalies you have to watch them play 100 games before you can kind of decide what they are. And Demko hasn't done that yet, but I think between the bubble and his last month, you can at least see that he's capable of going on runs as a starter.
Yeah.
And for 5 mil, it's a pretty affordable contract for the Canucks. And
Especially if it takes them right up to 30 years old. That's perfect, you know?
Yeah, it's
Because then
perfect.
you can make that assessment like they did this year with Markstrom. Okay, has he proven that he's going to be the guy? Does he have any recent injuries? Can we
Yep.
extend him? Do we look, to someone else?
And I think too, like, if you compare that Markstrom contract to Demko's right now, and you said last summer when Markstrom walked, or even the beginning of this year, and said, okay, you're gonna get Demko at $1 million cheaper a year, and there's no trade clause, no
Yeah,
movement clause, so you have freedom to move him if you need to, which is something the Canucks have not done well in the past. So that's all really good. The other thing that I just really quickly want to touch on with Demko is like through the Canucks history, they have a very poor track record of drafting and developing goalies. And I think Demko is really going to be the first, like Schneider was going to be, right? And then they traded him. But he's going to be really the first like bona fide starter they've had that they drafted in their history,
that's cool.
which is cool, but it's also like, okay, it's been 50 years, he probably should have had one by this time. So I'm really happy for Demko, and I think, they brought him along right. They did the right thing. They let him build up in the AHL, and I think both me and you are pretty high on him and his potential. So yeah, I think it's great length, great term.
Yeah, no, A plus, especially like you say, they probably paid a little bit more annually to go the 5 years and get the no move clause, but I think though for the price, it's all gonna be worth it.
Yeah, yeah. And when you consider too, like those deals that, yeah, like Bennington and Murray have signed, like I would 100% way rather have Demko in net than either of those two guys.
Yeah.
So pretty happy Canucks fan from that perspective, but not very happy in any other perspective right now.
Well, hopefully there's a lot of news because we do got the trade deadline coming up in a week.
Yeah.
So hopefully we get some news to talk about next weekend because we know we're gonna have no Canucks games to talk about.
Yeah, no Canucks games. Hopefully some more positive news though out of the team would be nice. And yeah, we'll see what happens during the week.
Perfect. All right. Well, look forward to another one next weekend, and thanks to our loyal 3 for listening. And we'll do episode 26 next weekend. So it's been Hockey Talk on the Rock. It's Laura, I'm Keith, and thanks for doing the thing.
Woo!